the library in my neighborhood, I think of another home. I think of a place where I can come and be creative. And thanks to the supportive team and people in my library, the ideas and the inventions that I have, I'm able to do and bring to life in a way that I never thought I could.
So basically for the Innovation Lab, I know a lot of libraries are really looking for technology curriculum, and with all the different responsibilities that we have to do, it's really hard to also be putting curriculum together. So, you know, one of the things that I definitely am liking more and more about Adobe Creative Suite is they have, not only do they have a lot of great resources, but they actually do have the way to self-teach and then teach through curriculum as well, which is just, like I said, a really great resource. So I think I'm like, you know, how you kind of start with certain things and over time you figure out what you like and what you don't and what really works and what really doesn't. Well, with this whole Innovation Lab project, I'm definitely finding that I like Adobe Creative Suite a lot because it has a lot of different resources that are very useful and very helpful to meet our needs. So today we're just going to talk about the navigating Adobe apps for education for curriculum. Also, we're going to talk about navigating Adobe Education Exchange, which it's broken down into different segments. That's learning, and really the learning is actually as a professional, kind of learning workshops, courses, taking on it, like if you're just looking at Photoshop as a whole to learn and then turn around and teach. Under the teaching, you'll find different curriculums, but with the learning, the way they have it set up, they do actually have different workshops set up. Some of those workshops are live workshops that are scheduled on specific dates, which you can sign up for, but they also have past workshops that you can walk through, and they're very easy to walk through, and you can actually earn certifications when you do complete them. And then the teaching is more specifics for teaching when they actually have whole curriculums. So they'll have a curriculum with 5 different classes put together with the lesson plan itself and any assets or digital resources, which another thing that I've come across that I'm going to show you is a couple different assets that I came across, and one is on Creative Commons, which I've really kind of been interested in learning more about since I started this whole project, and it was really cool to come across an asset that's already been created that was put together on Creative Commons. So that's a resource that's a really good tool, I think, and it's something that will be on the interactive PDF as well. And then under also the Adobe Education Exchange, they also have different discussions, which really I think proved to be very beneficial with the different things that we come up with. And then connections, you actually can follow different people specializing in different areas. So you really, it has an area to start to follow different people with expertise that you may be interested in, as well as if you find a resource, like I've already found a name that I really like what he put together. So he's a person that I started to follow right away. And then at the end, we'll do a little introduction to Adobe Spark, which from my understanding is also a free resource. And I did a quick little tutorial on it just to show kind of how easy it really is. I was really surprised how easy it is to put together. And the other resource that I really like was also done using Adobe Spark, which the one I did was a little video quick tutorial, and I'm pretty sure the one that this individual put together is a web page. So it's a nice example of a web page. And what's really cool about these is they're so much easier to put together than you really realize. And comments really gives you a great example of how you can put the tutorials together for patrons to use in the future, so everything is kind of at their fingertips. So Adobe Apps for Education, it is an interactive PDF, which means you do click to navigate to the different resources that you would like to use. So clicking the words is how you navigate to the different lesson plans. That resource is broken down into different categories. They have images and pictures, figures and illustrations, documents, portfolios and presentations, productivity and collaboration, apps, websites, video and audio, and games. And as you see it, it'll make more sense. So again, it is broken down. This is the Adobe Apps for Education, broken down into beginner, intermediate, and expert level. So if you're, starting with just a brand new class, you would select, say, something from the beginner category, and then you have intermediate and expert. And then it also, it shows you which app you would be using. So PS obviously is Photoshop, LR is Lightroom, Adobe Illustrator is the AI. And so it basically tells you which app you would be using and the audience level that you would be looking at. So the other thing about the page, when you do click on a link, at the bottom of the lesson, when you just scroll the page down, it's also going to give you some ideas for some other lessons that are available, which is a really great resource to start with, exploring creativity in today's classroom, learning Adobe Photoshop. So, and they do this with their dashboard as well. They offer recommendations and suggestions to get started with in related lesson plans to the one that you had currently used. So I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm going to show you again Adobe Spark example. This is the example here on Adobe Spark, and I'm going to go ahead and play that first.
Using Adobe Apps for Education is easy. Simply open up the file labeled Adobe Apps for Education. Select a category. Select the project by clicking on it. Look for your curriculum guide and the other resources connected to the project. Review the resources and links to make sure everything is working. Additional related projects are listed at the bottom of the page. There are many simple projects to get you started exploring technology.
So that's just a really quick example of the Adobe Spark. As we move on further, you'll see a nice, much more complicated example using the Creative Commons. So this link here links us to, we'll go out, and this is the actual, which I hope you can see it pretty well. This is the actual interactive PDF. Again, it's broken down into images, figures. This is where it's showing you which apps fall under. So like with interactive documents, that interactive PDFs, that actually falls under InDesign, which is ID. And so for anything related to creating an interactive PDF, want to look there. Just going to check this real quick. And images and pictures, of course, Photoshop, video and audio, and then the Adobe Spark. That's, it's funny, I think somebody had mentioned Spark when I first started this and was just so kind of so much to do so quickly, but I kind of wish I would have explored Spark a little bit quicker, because I just realized after the past 2 weeks how easy Spark is to use. And it's a great resource that you can really kind of pick up stuff pretty quickly and create stuff really quickly. So these are then your different categories. So we go to images and pictures, and under that, just clicking on a link. So let's say we want to learn 5 simple ways to enhance a photo. And I'm going to go ahead and play some of this through just to give you guys an idea of kind of how the lesson plan works and the kind of elements that they do have in that. It's not going to be, I won't play it very long, but again, it's linking to. So now we're going to, this is a learn 5 simple ways to enhance a photo. So they have it broken down into your subject areas, your age levels, and again, these can be suggestions based on your experience in working, but they do have a search tool as well to search for age levels. It gives you an estimated of time spent and the materials that you're going to be using. And then here are your materials and tutorial, the sample assets. That's something, you know, one of the things you will definitely want to make sure that everything that you're going to need is there before you start a program. That's one of the things that I did find, that it's not always there. But one of the things that I know that I do with my own work, I usually don't use the sample assets. I like, because I usually have something that I'm working on and I have to work on, but I usually like to take the concepts and the ideas that are being discussed with kind of the project that I'm working on. So again, this one is learn 5 simple ways to enhance a photo, and just to give you the idea that you know, you have some feedback there, and then you have some related different types of workshops or lesson plans that are listed right under the one that we're going to view. So that's just how the interactive PDF works, and it's always going to display something like that. There's also the option to view all by just arrowing over. So just really quickly, we're going to go ahead and watch this video. So it links right to a video with the lesson.
When you're going to share a photographic image, you probably want to make it a little more eye-catching, and Photoshop provides you with a virtually unlimited set of tools for changing the appearance of your photos so that they're a little more creative, a little more unique, and a little more interesting. Let's take a look at 5 quick techniques you can use to create more eye-catching photos. One of my favorite creative techniques is to produce a black and white interpretation of a photo, and Photoshop makes that incredibly easy with the black and white adjustment layer. I'm going to go to the bottom of the Layers panel and click on the Add Adjustment Layer button, and then choose Black and White from the pop-up menu that appears. I'll get an initial conversion from color to black and white, but I can fine-tune the luminance based on original color values in the photo. For example, the sky is going to contain a fair amount of cyan or blue, and so if I brighten the cyan and blue sliders, I'll see the sky brighten up a bit, but you can actually work directly on the image. I'll click on the On Image Adjustment button, and then, for example, I'll point at the barn here and click and drag, and you can see that the red slider is now moving to the left as I move my mouse to the left, and if I move my mouse to the right, the red slider moves to the right. So in effect, I'm brightening or darkening the red values within the image just by clicking on a red object and dragging to the right or to the left. And I can continue in this manner, for example, clicking on a green area and dragging to the right. Of course, many greens contain a lot of yellow as well, so you'll notice that the yellows slider is the one that's moving the most. But with this technique, I can very quickly and easily apply a variety of fine-tuning adjustments to determine exactly how I want to interpret this black and white image. Let's switch to another photo and take a look at a variation on a theme with black and white, and that is a sepia tone effect. I'll start off by adding an adjustment layer for black and white once again, and I can certainly adjust the various sliders here, brightening and darkening specific values from within the photo based on, again, their original color values. But what I'm most interested in is adding a bit of a color tint. And so I'm going to turn on the tint checkbox, and then I'll click the color swatch associated with that tint checkbox to bring up the color picker. Now, when I'm adding a tint to a black and white image, I'll usually select a color that's relatively unsaturated, not too vibrant. We want to have a relatively subtle color addition to the image. I think in this case, I'll shift a little bit more toward a yellowish value and reduce that saturation even further, perhaps right about there. Once I'm happy with that color, I'll click OK, and then I can toggle that tint checkbox so that you can get a sense of that subtle addition of color making a significant impact on the photo. At times, cropping an image can also make a very big difference. With this photograph of an oyster catcher, for example, it's sort of centered in the frame and it's not really filling the frame. I think it would be a lot more interesting if the bird appeared larger in the overall image. So I'm going to choose the crop tool from the toolbox, and then I'll simply click and drag on the corners of my crop box or the edges of the crop box in order to adjust the size of the cropping, determining which portion of the image I'll actually include in the final result. Since this is a moving subject, I'll leave a little bit more space on the right, the direction the bird is moving, than on the left, and I'll try not to crowd things too much. But once I'm happy with that result, I'll go ahead and click the commit button on the options bar, and you can see we now have a much tighter composition of this bird. Color can be very important to a photograph, and sometimes the color is a little bit too cool or perhaps a little bit too warm, but we tend to like warmer colors in our photos, the yellows, oranges, and reds, and there's a very quick and easy way to add a little bit of a color tint to a photo through the photo filter adjustment layer. So I'll go ahead and add an adjustment layer to this image, in this case a photo filter adjustment layer, and you can see without doing anything I actually end up with a pretty nice interpretation of the photo. That's with the warming filter option. I can choose from a variety of different filters though. There are cooling filters, warming filters, individual colored filters, etc. If I can't find a filter color that I really like for the image, I can also click the color swatch and then choose a specific color that I would like to add to the photo. But in this case, I think the color that was already established is pretty good. I'll go ahead and click cancel here, and I can also adjust the overall density of that filter effect. In other words, the strength of the effect. In this case, I just want a little bit of warming. I just want to accentuate the earth tones and maybe offset some of the cool light just a little bit. So I think right about there will work pretty nicely. And speaking of color, sometimes you just want the color to pop out of a photo. In this case, I have some vibrant colors, but they're not looking all that vibrant, and so I'd like to take things up a notch. For this type of situation, a vibrance adjustment layer is exactly what you need. I'll go ahead and add a vibrance adjustment layer for this image, and you'll see that I have two sliders, vibrance and saturation. Saturation increases or decreases the intensity of colors evenly across the board, whereas vibrance you can think of as a color equalizer. Colors that are not very saturated will be boosted more when we increase vibrance, and colors that are saturated will be reduced in saturation a little bit more when we reduce the vibrance. What that all boils down to is a powerful saturation adjustment with a little bit of built-in self-control, so I can increase vibrance quite a lot before the colors start to look a little bit artificial. Generally speaking, the approach I take is to increase vibrance a bit until the colors that needed a boost are brought up to the level of the colors that already look reasonably well, and then I can fine-tune the overall saturation of the image as desired, either up or down. So there you have it, 5 quick and easy techniques that can help you enhance a variety of different photos very easily, helping to make those photos a bit more eye-catching.
So that's a nice, quick, easy example of a simple lesson plan that you can have students bring in 5 different images and they can walk through just those simple examples. But again, this is broken down into different categories: the images and pictures, portfolios and presentations, websites, figures and illustrations, and it obviously gives you the different apps. And with Adobe Creative Suite, you do have access to all of the apps, so it really does work nicely together, and everything is really covered in here. So I'll be sending that out. It's on the interactive PDF, and I will also be sending it out when I send out the email for the interactive PDF. I'm going to go ahead and attach this as well, just as an individual file, so you'll have that. I think I have to navigate back to my PowerPoint here. I hope I don't mess everything up too much. Just give me a second. Okay. So that brings us to the Adobe Education Exchange, which is different from what I just showed you, the apps for education. The Adobe Education Exchange, I did put the link in your chat box. Again, that is going to be on the interactive PDF as well. I do have a brief introduction I will show you, and then we will go to the dashboard. Now with the Adobe Education Exchange, it is broken down into learning, teaching, discussions, and connections. So with that, we'll go to the quick video.
Welcome to the Adobe Education Exchange. We're excited that you're interested in connecting to one of the largest communities of creative educators in the world. We've completely overhauled the Adobe Education Exchange to make it easier to find and share resources, connect with other educators, and participate in discussions. We've also added content and new features, including a brand new section for professional development, the ability to earn badges, and a notification system. Join me in a quick tour of the new site and learn how you can make the best use of the Adobe Education Exchange. The resource section is the hub for all the teaching and learning materials and is the first place for you to check out. You can search and browse for resources and access more information and files for each of the resources you're interested in. You can also quickly share a resource and contribute to the growth of the catalog of materials available to the community. The community section is where you can find other members and start to build your social network. Search for members or browse the trending members area to find educators who are interested in the same things that you are. Join or start a dialogue around topics of interest to you in the discussion forums. You can search or browse through the topics and quickly start a new discussion to get your question answered and engage with the expertise of the community. And the fourth section is the hub for professional development and learning. Here you can begin a workshop, learn about live training events, and get info for trainers. There's so much more to show you, but the best way to discover all the benefits is to join now or sign in and start exploring the site on your own. Thanks for your interest and welcome again to the Adobe Education Exchange.
Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and again, I do believe this is a free resource. I know that I am a Creative Cloud member, so this is actually something separate than Creative Cloud, and that is the link there where you do go to sign up. And I believe we're going to the dashboard now. This is what the dashboard itself looks like. This is where it's broken up to learning, teaching, and discussions, and connections. Now again, under home, it gives you different suggestions under recommendations, and they actually do give you recommendations under each area: learning, teaching, discussions, and connecting. And one of the things, just learning and navigating everything under each section, they do show what you actually have started on, with learning, they actually have courses, workshops, and it's, some of them are actually live workshops, so it may start in September or April. They also do have the recordings of workshops that they have done in the past. So an example of just one of the course workshops is, this is a course, Creating the Future. And this is just getting started with Adobe in the classroom. And you see here, it breaks it down. And as you work through one page, it just navigates you to going to the next. So as you can see, this may be something that you're able to walk through in one sit down, and it might be something that takes you some time. But under the learning aspect, it really is more of like professional development for the professional. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and navigate. And again, this is just an example of the different courses that are learning Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud. And whenever you do one type of workshop, it will give you a suggestion on another one. So with learning, you can do searches for courses and workshops. In the search, I'll show you that again with probably under the next section. I'm going to show you a little bit about searching and how there is the ability to search based on which type of app, the age level that you're looking for, or specifics, breaking it down that way. And again, you know, just with their courses, they have some video links to part of the coursework. They have specific things that they might have you walk through and do. And then this is under teaching. So with teaching, they are lesson plans and broken down lesson plans for the classes that you're working with. They'll have curriculum, they'll have digital assets, which an example of that will be here in 1 second. And you also can create your own lessons plans, which you include as part of a resource that can be uploaded. So Ian Upton did a project on Introduction to Creative Commons. It has a student resource and a lesson plan. And he did create this with the Adobe Spark. So this is another example of an Adobe Spark, what it was used to create with Adobe Spark. So you can actually download the whole lesson plan. And then this is the link to the tutorial, which I was just it's one of those things I got a little excited about. It's really cool because I really have been thinking about Creative Commons since I started this whole project, and then to find a resource that kind of fully goes more into the different aspects of Creative Commons and what it's about. It was kind of really cool to find this. So it kind of goes into, so this I do believe is a web page Spark product program. It does link to these links here are interactive, and so he has Wikipedia on copyright, you know, some different definitions. And then one thing for sure, like I know that this resource wouldn't be appropriate for everybody because there's a couple things in it that are thematic that I know that certain people that you would not show the resource to, but I'm just going to show you a really small clip of this as an example.
Left into one perfect machine.
I was going to go to 5.
This game don't depend on who made the song. We're trying to into one perfect machine designed for a single purpose: sharing information. The internet allowed me to connect from my island to the world, to communicate ideas with millions of others, and a media literate generation emerged, able to download the world's culture and transform it into something different. And we called our new language Remix. Funny things, political things, new things were all uploaded back to the net. The creative process became more important than the product because consumers were now creators, making the folk art of the future. But the people who owned the culture that we remixed, they represented the past, and they declared war. They didn't see a great library or an information superhighway. They saw a supermarket, and they wanted to get paid. For these people, ideas are intellectual property, locked up until purchase. They use infinite money, corporate lobbies, and lawsuits to protect their property. Let's call this side the copyright. On the other side are those who want to share ideas. We'll call them the copyleft. These people believe that the public domain must be protected to ensure the free exchange of ideas and the future of art and culture. These are the people I've traveled the world to find. Together we've drafted a manifesto, and it goes like this. Culture always builds on the past, but the past will always try to control the future. Our future is becoming less free. And to build free societies, we need to limit the control of the past.
Okay, well, this is me. How can I help you?
So this is about I think a little over an hour video. That video
We're
is.
gonna have some reading program, like where we do like a program once a day.
I'm not sure who that is. Or
Well, every day we're gonna do something different.
so did you have a question? Okay, and then so
Okay,
this
so
whole
for that age, your best bet's gonna probably be either the firefighter.
I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'm not quite sure if there's a question or if somebody's actually talking to somebody else. I think they might be talking to somebody else. Okay, so this whole lesson actually is talking about Creative Commons and that
the reading buddies. Yeah.
Okay, so this actually talks a little bit more about Creative Commons.
Have you ever wondered how to download and share digital content legally? How do you let people know that you want them to reuse your own work? Creative Commons licenses can help you do both. We'll show you how. Our world's exploded with digital opportunities. Now we can communicate, share, and work together using the exceptional distribution network that is the internet. Information and content can fly between us in exciting new ways. But it's important to know that when something is created, say a photo, a document, or a music track, it's automatically protected by copyright. Copyright enables people to say who can share and reuse their creations. You must always obtain someone's permission before sharing or reusing their work, even when it's posted online. But what if a creator wants everyone to use their work without the hassle of granting permission over and over? This is where Creative Commons can help. Creative Commons provides licensing tools that are free to use. You can apply a license to your work, which refines your copyright and streamlines how you give permission. Zach here downloads a photo called CC Kiwi that he wants to use in his science project. He can do this without asking Kerry, the photographer, first, because she's already given permission with a Creative Commons license. Kerry's license is legally robust, but easy for Zach to understand. She's told the world, including Zach, that they can use CC Kiwi as long as they acknowledge her as the original photographer. There are more rules Kerry could have included. Creative Commons licenses are made up of license elements. You can think of them as rules, and each have their own special symbol. This is attribution. It means that Zach must acknowledge Kerry when he publishes his science project containing her photo. This is non-commercial. It means no one else but Kerry is permitted to make money from CC Kiwi. Tim wants to print the photo onto t-shirts and distribute them to friends. He can do this, but he must not sell them. This is no derivatives. And it means that Kiri hasn't given permission to change her photo. Kate can use CC Kiwi on her design blog, but will need to ask Kiri before retouching or mixing up the image. And this is share alike. It means new creations that use CC Kiwi need to carry the same license. Jack incorporates his own remix of CC Kiwi in his video installation, but he must share the work under the same terms that Kiri has. Each Creative Commons license gives permission to share and includes the attribution rule. So people who find your Creative Commons licensed work are automatically allowed to share it, but are required to acknowledge you if they do. The other 3 license elements are optional, and you can choose which ones to add, if any. Here are the 6 combinations that make up Creative Commons licenses. The difference between them is how many rules apply when someone wishes to use your work. The attribution license allows reusers the most freedom, and the attribution non-commercial no derivatives license allows the least freedom. The attribution license and the attribution share alike licenses are sometimes referred to as Free Cultural Works approved licenses. These 3 licenses restrict commercial use of a work. And these 2 licenses do not give permission for adapting or remixing. These 2 licenses require new works to be licensed under the same terms. To choose and apply one of these licenses, and to view their terms in more detail, visit us at creativecommons.org.nz. Or you can answer some questions to help you decide which license best suits your needs at creativecommons.org/choose. There are some good ways to find other people's Creative Commons licensed work online. You can use a search filter by going to the Creative Commons website. Or why not try the Jamendo website for music, Flickr for images, or Digital NZ for New Zealand content. Using Creative Commons licenses could help your creations reach more people. Maybe you want to connect with others across the globe and take turns at improving a report. Or maybe you just want to have fun, remixing someone else's work. Whatever reason you have to share your work, you'll find there are scientists, educators, companies, and public agencies who are using Creative Commons. By opening up permission, just imagine how much we can achieve. Collaborating on what we hold in common, being open about big decisions, and finding solutions in the spaces between us. Let's work together, confidently and legally. It's good to share with Creative Commons.
So that is is talking about the Creative Commons licensing, and also it has the link to the tool to creating your own Creative Commons license, so pursuing that. So that link is also available on the interactive PDF, which is the link to doing that. I'm going back to the tutorial again. Sorry, I'm kind of navigating all this is just trying to do the quickest way. So really this one Creative Commons resource is probably something that you could spend a little bit of time with and really get a much better understanding of the whole Creative Commons. Now the IncompTech is available as a resource, I think, for music. So yes, so getting started with different music that's free to use. And they offered Flickr as an image tool to use for easy access to images, Creative Commons images. And then they talked about doing a Creative Commons search, because there's a lot more Creative Commons resources available, both by doing a Google search or doing a Creative Commons search on the net. And then Adobe Spark itself is an actual tool. Again, that's what this was created with. And so This tool was created by Ian Upton, and obviously this is one example of a person that I would follow because I really liked his resource so much. And I'm going to try to go back now and link back to my dashboard. And just showing under teaching here. When you favorite something, it lists the person and the resource that you favored. So introduction to Creative Commons. So it kind of keeps a track, a history of the things that you like and of what you've commented on, of what you've viewed, which makes it much easier kind of to have them at your fingertips. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go on to, and again, with the teaching resources, that information is also listed, just like the others. They have recommended resources listed at the bottom of whatever resource you might be using. So here are some examples of just the discussion forum. And here is one just about a discussion about the benefits of using Creative Cloud, because, you know, sometimes we have to justify why we're spending the money on what we're spending the money on and stuff like that. So there are discussion groups available, and that's, again, they will give related possible discussions at the bottom. And then if I would go to my dashboard here, I wanted to give you guys kind of a search view. So if you wanted to search a particular, let's say it's Photoshop lesson plan, you would just do a search there. You would, on the left here, you see it's broken down by product: Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Adobe Premiere Pro; subject: graphic design, digital media, photography, video; and then age level. So on your basic search, you get a full 2,319 results. So that's like 2,319 different resources, curriculum, possibility pieces that you might want to use. You can break that down by age. You can break it down by what product you want to use. So that's a really valuable resource, and that's just, you know, basically located at the top of your dashboard for searching. Let's see. And then connecting with people. So Judy Durkin, she's actually created a lot of different resources. So of course she's the kind of person that I would want to follow, being that she's probably created a lot of different, actually whole curriculums. She created DigiCorps, a 22-week curriculum for learning Illustrator. So here's an example of a curriculum. And she has it broken down with certificates. The one thing that you really want to be sure of is usually they have the materials associated with listed as part of your file here. You just want to make sure that you can use all those resources as you need to. And again, like some of the resources, like if you have some of the files that are actually the teaching files, you might have that, but not have all the specific files that are associated. But you can kind of like have people create what they want to do and relate whatever the project is to with resources that they pictures or videos that either that they've used an iPad with and have them upload a camera or whatever it may be. But you know, you do have to spend a little bit of time looking at and going through the curriculum, whether it be just a single lesson plan or a whole curriculum to make sure that all the resources are there that you need. But they do provide they do provide that as, and that's where I was just kind of really surprised at how many things are available. And the more that you use it, obviously, the more that you're going to see what really is going to work for you. And then we'll just finish up with a really basic Adobe Spark video. Kind of shows you how quick and easy it again. And this is actually learning Adobe Spark. It's a whole little workshop, and this is probably a workshop that you can get through really in a matter of an hour.
All of us are juggling multiple roles. Just finding the time to create compelling images that get the word out quickly is tough.
You want to be able to have a far reach, and you want to have people know about you, but you don't really have thousands of dollars to spend.
My students this year are amazing. I am always looking for new ways for them to be able to demonstrate their knowledge.
Adobe Spark has allowed us to make our stories come to life.
The first time I used Page, I was able to figure out how many amazing things I could use it for.
Nice, like really, really vibrant white.
It keeps my students completely engaged.
I thought it was going to be really hard, but surprising how easy it is. And in the play, I was a hyena.
I think that once people know about us and feel connected to our story, there's no way that they wouldn't support us. Using these tools really allows me to support my business and my mission.
The food is already amazing. The culture is already amazing. We're just telling the story.
So here again is your lesson plan, giving you your learning objectives, any prerequisites, that's bad, that there might be. And then in continuing a workshop, you just go to finish one step, and then you just go to the next. And Adobe Spark, I do believe, is another one that is free. And it will give you very basic step-by-step directions through creating a project, pursuing a project. Now it also, on some of them, it will actually give you suggestions or basics about writing. So different curriculum pieces, they'll actually give you the specific tools that you might need that are the meat and potatoes of the lesson itself. So again, that's just kind of another thing that's really, I think, very beneficial about the whole Adobe Education Exchange, is that it really does put all of the tools that you need at your fingertips. And I think that's all I have. Are there any questions about anything?
Melanie?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question, but it was something we looked at earlier, so I'm not even sure if I know what to call it, but there was one that talked about like there was like professional training on one of these. Yes. Now, is that something that's not like the certificates you were talking about, where like we could learn?
Actually, they do have that as a part of the Adobe Education Exchange. They have different programs through here that, and what we were talking about is lynda.com, and that is definitely one way to pursue. And this one might be more specific in that we can really look at things that might be more helpful in regards to putting something together and having the resources at our fingertips to use to have a program in the library. So I think both on lynda.com, it's more geared to really learning, whether it be Photoshop. Lynda.com has Photoshop available, InDesign available, and one other program. I'm not sure what it is right now, which is something that I would suggest that, if we get a group of 5 people that are interested in pursuing that. So I know it's Photoshop. I'm pretty sure it's Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And I think all 3 of those would be good to pursue. And it is a certification type program for that. And then the Adobe Education does do the same thing as well. And I think you can also create learning groups in here. So this is another area that we can actually kind of all choose a couple programs if we wanted to walk through together and do that, and you would have a certification type at the end. So I really think that these resources are going to be things that can really help us bring the programming into our libraries, and we can walk through it as a group of people, which I think would be helpful as well.
Now, is that something that maybe, sorry, did I just cut, did I cut somebody off?
No.
Okay. Is that something that maybe even if it's free, like our students could do here? Because I mean, having that kind of that certification, I think would help them. So maybe something we can walk them through. Okay.
And that's something really you can walk your students through there. You can walk them through any of the programs that are on here. And I think having that little certification incentive at the end really is beneficial, and you really are building skills that are good for, job and just education for the youth. So they're all real skills that would be great to spend time doing. So yeah, and it's really cool. The only thing I really suggest is to really do the ones that are here and see and make sure you're picking the ones that you want and kind of walk through them before you walk anybody else through them to make sure that everything you need is there. Because that is the one thing that I have come across is some that have everything that they need to kind of fall through. But again, as far as the assets are concerned, that's really something that I think that people are really more motivated to use their own resources as far as pictures, video, artwork, all that stuff is really like, I think, I learn better when I'm working with my own stuff. So I think that, that's not as much an issue because a lot of lesson plans step through what is needed. And I've also seen some writing suggestions and rubrics, which we're not a school, so we really don't have to, follow a rubric or anything, but it really gives you a guideline as to what to pursue. And it's like it gives you an idea of, and you may already be doing it, but it's really helping you just kind of structure and see, that you are doing it. So it really, and I've been a teacher in the past, so I've just, I'm stumbling on my words here, but so I found this probably 2 weeks ago, or I don't even know if it was 2 weeks ago, and I just got really excited really quick. And from what I can tell, I do think it's all free. I even think that the Adobe Spark is free. With Adobe Spark, you actually can upload a small video, you can upload small images, you can do a recording, like you could do all this on an iPad. And it doesn't take, you could literally put the whole thing together on the iPad. Now, my first Spark example was very simple, basic, and I threw that together in no time. That second Creative Commons example, I think, was a great example of how thorough you can really have the resources right at everybody's fingertips. So it's really kind of cool. So,
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Or suggestions?
Okay, well, I'll talk again for a second. Just because I've had the kit for this past 3 months, I feel like for anybody who's about to get it or knows that they're getting it soon, I think these lesson plans can be very important because it did take us unless you already really know what you're doing, like you already have like a really great foundation with Photoshop and things like that. But for a library that didn't really know, a lot of these lesson plans would have been really helpful for us to kind of get the ball rolling, and even asking students like what they would have wanted to use. So I'm really glad that you showed this to us, because I think it would be really helpful for everybody else.
Christine, I'm just so sorry that it took me till now to find it, you know, but
okay.
It really does take time to kind of learn your products and learn what you have. And, you know, and kind of my surprise was that even Adobe Education Exchange, I don't think you have to be Adobe Creative Cloud member to actually be able to use these resources. Now, I might be wrong about that. I don't think that I am. I think that you only have to create an Adobe account and that it's free to do that. But honestly, what I've experienced with the Innovation Lab so far, what I've seen the most is that Adobe Creative Cloud is worth the investment. With all the other things that I've considered and that we've worked with and that we've done, I think lynda.com is very helpful, but I really think that now finding this resource that Adobe Creative Suite is like priceless, and for librarians as well, because it really is giving us something to start to work with. And this was a concern that I've had this whole curriculum thing, and then when I found this, I'm like, this is just like everything that we really need, I think, to really start to be able to create some programming and really create it pretty quickly, because I think that with stuff like this, you have things that are already put together that people can sit down and start learning. Just knowing that it's there, you can now sit down and start to absorb the information and what's there. And it could be, self-directed learning, or getting a group together and knowing where you want to focus and being able to do that. So I was very excited to find this, and kind of only sad that it took me this long. So, but any other questions? Oh, Natalia, just a second. Okay. I'm trying to, is it possible for us to get Creative Suite before we get the equipment for the teens? Natalia, yes, it is. I do have an account that you can actually start working with. I'm going to be going to North Palm Springs, I think tomorrow, and I have a computer that they're using that it's not a Mac computer. It's just a computer, but I can set up your creative account on that. And Christina, you do have your account for the full year. So everybody who has had the equipment, you can still use your Adobe Creative Cloud. I think it's through October, I'm not positive, but Natalia, you can definitely, I'm gonna have to make a time to drop that off to you. And I actually do have your Creative Suite login information, and I can call you later today or tomorrow and kind of walk you through logging on, and you guys can actually start using it pretty much right away. And that's another thing that I think, it's kind of like I should have kind of had that prepared for you 6 months ago, but didn't. This whole thing is a learning in process, but you definitely will have like 3 months to start playing with it and working with it. And this Adobe Education Exchange, the link is in the chat. That's the other thing that's on the creative, the interactive PDF. That link I will make sure it's there, and you guys, all try it out and let me know. I'm pretty sure it's free, and you can just log in and create an account, and you should be good after that. Any other questions? Thank you for your question. And then the Innovation Lab for next year, we are going to be changing it to having it for 6 months instead of just 3, to give longer time, and we are looking for people that are interested in using it. So if you are interested, please let me know, and we'll start just kind of prepping in time frames as to when you would like to have the Innovation Lab. But we are thinking to have the resources for 6 months instead of 3, so that will give you more time to really work at really how it would work in your environment, if it's going to work in your environment, give you more time to learn the information and to see how it will work for you. So if you have interest, please let me know. And next month, we have Ben Kahn from Delray Public Library, and he's got a lot of really good experience with the music side of things, and so I'm looking really forward to having him give us some of his insight to what he's done with the music. I think he's using GarageBand, but he's done a lot of work with that, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then so that's going to be May, and I think June we're going to do a face-to-face, and July we're going to have Tracy from Hartford Public Library. So she's going to work with us until she's had like 5 years experience with UMedia, and they're really working towards creating programming that's helping their youth gain that skill development ability. So I'm really looking forward to having her as well. But again, thank you guys for coming, and if you have any input, any questions about anything, please let me know. And thanks again for your time.
Okay, Melanie, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, see you soon.
Okay, bye.
All right.